Howdy folks, this is Tom, your frugal prepper. I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about these cucumber plants. It's kind of hard to make out here because it's pretty cloudy out today. But I've got some yellow splotches in these plants starting, and the edges of the leaves are very yellow. The other thing, I noticed it even more on this older leaf down here, and I have a little bit of fraying around the edge of this leaf. And what I think I have here is a calcium deficiency kind of starting to show up. So one of the things I like about the Mittleider method is once I've read the book and understood some things, it gives me the ability to be able to deduce what may be wrong. So one of the things that Dr. Mittleider says is start with healthy seedlings, healthy plants. And that's mistake number one. This plant was on clearance. It was half dead when I got it. I took too long to plant it. And you can see this leaf's showing a real light spot. And I had some really serious nitrogen deficiency in this plant when I first planted it. Very yellow all over. So I put it in the soil last week. I took off the lower really yellow leaves, and the new leaves started popping out pretty green and healthy, and even now it's not too serious yet. I'll have to cut that bush back. However, it had some blooms on it, and I thought, I'm just going to leave the blooms on it. But the truth is, this plant's not big enough to start producing fruit yet. So I gave it its first dose of weekly feed, and it's great. You see on the growing tips, it's really starting to make some new leaves and stuff. That's all well and good, and it got the nitrogen it needed, and boom, takes off. Now I start to see what's appearing to be a calcium deficiency. I may not treat this today. I may wait and let it go another day or two and just see if it gets worse. But this happens to a lot of people. They either have sick plants, or they have plants they've had in their garden that are borderline, and then they give it a boost of Mittleider weekly feed, and all of a sudden the plant gets a deficiency, and they're like, they get frustrated thinking this Mittleider thing isn't working. One thing you have to remember is if you didn't use the pre-plant, which I didn't here, I did not put my boron and calcium and that kind of stuff into the soil with my pre-plant. So that's not in my soil. And now I'm adding other nutrients. But what happens is if you have a plant that's being held back from its top growth, and one of the things you learn from reading the course book is there's a big difference between showing a deficiency and being able to produce top yields. So you can have a plant that's kind of hidden hunger, and that's a pretty wide gap. It doesn't look sick, but it's not going to produce much. So once you start giving it the nutrients that it needs to explode in growth and hit those top yields, a lot of times other deficiencies will show up that you would have never seen before. And so that's what's happening here is I gave it its first dose of weekly feed. It got some nitrogen and stuff. It started growing real good, and now it's saying, hey, I don't have enough calcium. Now I have dolomite in my weekly feed now, which should give it some calcium. So what's the problem? The problem is that this plant was root bound. It was in its pot too long. It was not a healthy transplant. So it hasn't developed the root system yet. It's able to absorb some of the easier nutrients like nitrogen, but it's not grabbing that calcium yet, and the calcium may take a little bit longer to kind of dissolve and get down in there. So I may give this an extra dose of calcium. I probably won't, but one thing I will do for sure is I will remove the blooms. And the reason I do that is because if it has a calcium deficiency and it starts to grow fruit now, it will get end rot. I don't want this plant right now to put any energy into making any fruit until it starts to get healthier. So, and I want it to be bigger. I want its roots to develop. So, like I said, if it gets worse, I probably will give it a shot of calcium, but I'm going to let the roots grow and expand out on this guy a little bit, and probably just give it another dose of weekly feed next week and see what it looks like from there. But this is why, Dr. Mittleider says that you plant seedlings and you transplant the healthiest seedlings, and you get rid of the ones that aren't as healthy. And that gives you the best chance of success, because you need a plant that has a good start to it when you start giving it the nutrients to get it growing, or you can have a deficiency show up. Sorry. So basically, I just kind of wanted to show you that and show you what, you know, this calcium deficiency is kind of looking like. Light yellow blotches in the leaves, kind of getting a little singed around the edges. And I'm going to let it go and just keep an eye on it. But this is also why you need to watch your plants every day and catch the symptoms early and then correct them. And get them before they become a serious problem, and keep that plant growing and keep it producing. So rule number 1 that I broke was start with a healthy seedling. You know, probably, you know, rule number 2 is not using the pre-plant mix, which I'm going to do next year. I had already started this garden before I knew about Mittleider, and you know, I think it probably needed to be a stronger, healthier seedling before I started hitting it with the weekly feed. But one other thing, I'll move the camera here and show you real quick, is the pepper plant. And I will put a link on this video to where I treated this plant right here for a potassium deficiency. So any of the sick leaves now that were really sick have fallen off. There may be a spot or two on a few leaves, but they've switched where they're not yellow. There's just that one dead little spot in the leaf. So I gave this a shot of potassium and magnesium because it was kind of showing both deficiencies. You can watch the video. And it's just doing absolutely wonderfully now. I've got peppers and just blooms. There's a pepper, more pepper, little tiny peppers up here that are just starting. More peppers over here. Just peppers everywhere. So that's going to be a high producing plant. If you go back and look, 2 weeks ago yesterday is when I did my first dose of Mittleider weekly feed. These plants were maybe this tall. And you can see they just all have exploded. I have fruit. This corn was maybe, back here was maybe 6 inches tall. And it's now 3 to 4 feet tall, and I see my first tassel coming out there. So yeah, very good. This pepper plant back here, which is the one that's actually getting the least sun, has a pepper on it. The pepper plant over here has a pepper on it. There's a couple of small peppers started on this one, so I'm going to have some peppers. These plants, I don't think I've set any fruit yet, but I see a couple of the buds changing. I think it's about to for these tomatoes. The tomato plants in the back have gone absolutely crazy. I went out there today and tied them up. They're all up above the tripods. I'm gonna have to figure out what I'm gonna do. I have suckers that have grown out and have grown all the way over to the other side. For instance, let me zoom in here a little bit. So that sucker growing out of the bottom of this plant, that was not there at all 4 days ago, and when I came out this morning it was half that size, and it has not been a sunny day. So I'm letting that sucker grow out right there because I accidentally cut that stem off and I wanted another one to go up the other tripod leg. So we'll leave that. And since I'm not vining these or running them on a string for vertical growing, I'm letting a lot of the suckers grow. I'm tying them off so that they'll just make fruit, rather than just going up the one growth stem. But I've cut, I got to keep them somewhat under control because they would just go absolutely crazy. And the tomatoes have absolutely no signs of any deficiencies whatsoever. They're perfectly happy. These other peppers here have all been perfectly happy. Let me zoom back out. I got a new camera today, so I'm still learning how to work it, and I bought a little mini tripod too. So yeah, these peppers have all been perfectly healthy. So just remember that just because your plant shows a deficiency doesn't mean the Mittleider system has failed. It's actually a sign that the Mittleider system is working and is pushing your plant close to being able to produce its top yields. So once you fix that deficiency, it'll either start producing its top yields or yet another deficiency may show up, and you'll fix that one, and then you'll start getting to your top yields. Anyway, this is Tom with Frugal Prepper. Please like and subscribe, and I would love to answer any comments you would like to leave. And also, I'll put links down below to the Mittleider Gardening Group on Facebook, and LDS Prepper is on my featured channels list. LDS is an amazing man and has some really great videos and has been so helpful in the group and through the whole process of learning this Mittleider system.